House needs painting, grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mossy Oak and Liqua Molly.
Welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. I'm your co-host, Sarah Beth, and you are?
Hello, Sarah Beth, and I'm Hank Parker. So glad everybody's joining us today. We're having a good day here in Union, South Carolina, getting a little rain.
Beautiful
so
rainy
working.
day.
Yeah.
Beautiful rainy day, getting rid of all that pollen, which, thank goodness.
There's been a lot of pollen.
So bad.
We've had an early spring, and spring has definitely sprung. It's gotten hot, man. It went from winter to summer almost.
It really did. I felt like a coated lemon pepper wing coming outside in that thick haze. I mean, you walk outside, all you see is yellow. It's terrible.
Well, it sure made fishing pop quick. Fish went from really a winter-type pattern to they just moved up on the points and started staging, and boom, in
Hot
just
outside.
a day or two, they're
Yep.
already on the bed spawning. It's happening. So it was a very quick transitional period with all this summertime weather that's rolling in here. So makes fishing a little bit more challenging because you got to skip a few steps that you normally go through. So.
Right. Well, last week we talked about Ethan Fothergill, and we talked a little bit about the Bassmaster Classic, and I think today...
Well, we got a little controversy going.
Go figure.
It's funny how it works. I think Ethan Fothergill's victory was just so incredibly special. What a kid, and how he persevered through a tumor in his brain and went through surgery and went to the college championship after going through all of that, and then just a year later ending up with the big trophy on the big stage, which he had a dream. And
Right.
I just think it's a fairy tale story that is so positive for our sport. So proud of that young man. And then all of a sudden, one of the heroes of the sport, second generation hero, is got controversy all around about getting information that he shouldn't have got, and now he's tired of being persecuted. It seems like this is the second event that he's had issues over, and so he's stepping away from the sport. So Scott Martin, who is Roland Martin's son, who is an awesome young man, awesome fisherman, his daughter Hillary is just an incredible fishing girl, and she is, one of the top YouTubers, Facebook followers. She's got more
Social
followers.
Media influencer.
Yeah,
That's the
come
word.
on with it. Help an
Come
old
on.
man out. I get in a ditch every once in a while. I need a little push to get out, four-wheel drive. So come on.
Right.
Yeah, so she's got a tremendous social media following, and just a really pleasant girl to be around. I was around her a little bit at the Bassmaster Classic signing autographs. She's got a huge following, and that family has been so influential in the sport of bass fishing. I'll tell you something about Roland. Roland fished American Bass, National Bass, and BASS the same time I did. Now, he didn't fish them all like I did, but he fished most of them. And for the first 3 years of my life, Roland Martin was in contention to win every single tournament that I fished going into the last day. Now, he didn't win them all, but what a statement is that? Every single tournament that I fished, Roland was up there within striking distance to win every single one of those tournaments.
Wow.
Led a lot of them
Yeah.
and won a lot of them.
Yeah.
So what a guy is Roland. And then here comes Scott. Scott had the dream to follow in his dad's footsteps and has done a tremendous job. Won the FLW Forest Wood Cup and has done real well on the Bass Elite Series.
Right.
Put on a show, I guess it's been 2 years ago, at Okeechobee, and forward facing sonar in shallow water on perspective mode, which is something that I'm not at all familiar with, but I enjoyed watching that, and it was quite a show he put on and just dominated that tournament with giant string of fish. So here we go. Scott Martin has announced last week.
He's leaving.
That he is leaving the Elite Series.
Yep. There's been, between that controversy, there's people speculating that the sport of bass is going downhill, or it's going to hit some huge bump in the road just because of this past Bassmaster Classic. A lot of people were really disappointed. There's a lot of really nasty comments, even on some of your posts, where you were doing a boat tour of your stuff. And so when it came to your forward-facing sonar, everyone in the comments, oh no, not you too. I thought you'd do better than that, which, you've addressed this multiple times, so I don't feel like you really have to, in the sense you don't have to justify yourself for having the things that you have on your boat. People ask for a boat tour, you give it to them. People are always going to have something negative to say, but there's tons of controversy, especially after the Bassmaster Classic, with a lot of them using the forward-facing sonar. So
I don't know if it's just negativity that we get ourselves in a trench because everybody now has social media and they can post instantaneous. I heard somebody say it's okay to post it, just don't hit send for 24 hours. Think about what you're saying. It's forever. I had a little issue just before we came on, and so Sarah Beth's answering a text that my wife is sending to make sure I'm okay. I'm doing fine. I didn't feel well a few minutes ago.
You had a little spell. You about scared me half to death.
Everybody thought, oh, he's having a heart attack. He's dying. That's what happens when you get old.
I know.
Every time you have a little hiccup, everybody thinks, oh, this is it. He's going to croak on us.
That's all right. We'll start digging the hole out by that tree outside.
They're already looking at what they're going to inherit. Am I going to get that deer in, or am I going to get that deer in? So that's kind of the way it is. But anyway, here we go.
It's terrible.
A little controversy brewing. I think we came off a very positive Bassmaster Classic with our winner, who Fothergill, who just amazing. Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan.
Ethan. It was just an amazing story. So, and Trey McKinney, young guy that has just been so consistent. Man, that guy catches fish. It's just amazing to me how well he does all the time, everywhere we go. And so he started leading, and Ethan came on strong that second day, and boom, ends up winning the tournament. It was just an awesome deal. So you leave on a super high. The sport was different. Now, let's talk just a little bit about the Classic itself. You see people like David Fritz, people like Larry Nixon, people like even KVD didn't have the long autograph lines that you traditionally see at the Classic.
Right.
Dance did. Bill Dance, he maintained his own. Yeah. I didn't have the normal lines that I have for autograph seekers. The fan base is shifting, and the sport is changing a little bit. I had a couple of guys call me and talk about the fact that they saw me and Fritz and Larry and some of the other guys without the long lines that you traditionally see.
Right.
It's changing. It really is.
Now, I will say there was a huge line. They had you, Jimmy Houston, and who else was standing over there? Was it Kevin that was there that time? Or was that the Ranger booth? And there was just lines, all the way back, like for a few booths of people coming through because they can meet all three at once.
It was Jimmy, Larry,
Denny Breyer. Okay,
Yeah, now we did have a big line, but that's pretty heavy hitters there when you got Denny Breyer, who doesn't come out a whole lot. Denny just incredible Hall of Famer, incredible guy. Yeah. Just tremendous success. And then you got Larry Nixon, one of the greatest that ever breathed air, and Jimmy, the nut of all nuts.
The nut of all nuts. You don't leave that man alone.
Oh my goodness, he is one cut up. Anybody that's 80 years old and still has bangs deserves a long line. Just to come and see. It's like the woman with the beard at the circus. So come on, Jimmy.
That's terrible. He took his sunglasses off at the Classic for that pie thing. You don't recognize him. I couldn't recognize him.
It's the first time I'd seen him without sunglasses. That's kind of like
terrible.
A weird deal.
Like, who are you?
Yeah, I thought they grew on his head and they stayed there all the time. But Jimmy is an awesome guy. We pick on Jimmy all the time because he picks on us. But Jimmy Houston is a true champion and a great guy. So we had long lines. Classic was different. There wasn't as many people going to the weigh-in as traditionally go.
Right.
Hank Cherry won that event in the same arena just a few years ago, and the place was packed. This year, it wasn't as many people there for the weigh-in. I thought that was peculiar. I didn't, and I still don't understand it, why there were less people. The outdoor show seemed to be packed.
You think people are just boycotting?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. I don't know the answer, but it was different.
Yeah.
So I had a great mentor in my fishing world and my fishing life in Forrest Wood. And Forrest Wood was the most selfish person that I know.
Selfless.
Selfish.
Selfless.
Say it for me.
Selfless.
Selfless.
There you
Did I
go.
do that
There you
time?
go. Yep.
How about chimney?
I know. That's what I had
There they go,
flashbacks
work.
to in my mind. Yeah. That's funny.
Chimney. Oh, that's silly. It's chimney. But anyway, Forrest Wood was the most selfless
Yep, there you go.
individual I've ever met. Forrest was all about loving people, being kind, and always worried about the preservation of the sport. And if there was a controversy, Forrest was really quick to never take a side, but try to evaluate how to resolve issues for the betterment of the sport.
Right.
And I always admired that, and you hear me quite often talk about whatever is the best for the sport, I'm for. And that was always Forrest. And Forrest Wood would always work hard and be kind to everybody. I just admired him so much. He was such a delight. And so I look at Scott Martin, I look at Bass, I look at where we are and the controversy, and it makes me very sad that Scott Martin is leaving the sport. He's in the prime of his life.
Yeah.
Great physical shape. And he has such a passion for the sport. It's been his dream since he was a little kid, admiring his father. And for him to be frustrated with what's going on and walk away from the sport is not good for anybody. It's not good.
I think that's possibly one of the worst things he could have done. If he didn't do what they're saying that he did, I feel like that just kind of shows almost an admittance of guilt, or people are going to take it that way. That, okay, you're running away from the situation. You're just leaving it all together. Are you guilty of what we're accusing you instead of trying to defend yourself, you know?
Well, I'll listen to the accusations.
Accusations. You got it. You got it. It's okay. You'll catch up.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's
We'll be
okay.
all right. I'll listen to what he's being accused of.
Right.
And I think the rule is a bad rule. I think it's a bad rule before this controversy ever took place. I think it's a bad rule all the way around. I've never liked this no information during the off-limits period. I was doing a seminar at Angler's Choice Marine in Richmond, Virginia. I had Matt Airy and Brian Thrift. Marty Stone from Major League Fishing was there. And there were two other pros there, I think David Dudley, and one I can't recall at the moment. But I said something about setting my hummingbird where there's a little slimy grass line in Lake Murray.
Okay.
And so I would set my hummingbird for anything 6 foot or less to be red. So I could go around those points and I could throw a little crankbait that ran about 5.5 feet deep and never get in that slime moss. And by doing that, I was super successful. I made several trips and I just caught a lot of fish. And what helped me was to be able to position my boat where I kept that crankbait right there in that 5.5, 6 foot of water with a bait that ran about 5 to 5.5 foot deep. And I'd hold my rod tip up, and I was able to catch a lot of fish by doing that. So I mentioned that in the seminar, and everybody on the stage said, "Whoa, God, oh, whoa." And Marty Stone stopped me, who was one of the commentators with Major League Fishing, said, "Don't say anything else. Do not name a lake. You can talk about the method of setting the depth finder. You can talk about the method of using the crankbait, but you can't say the name of the lake." I think that's silly. That's a rule. I understand that. And Marty was right. I don't think Marty was silly, and I don't think that Matt or Brian Thrift or any of those guys were silly. I think the rule's silly. I mean, come on now. what in the world?
The no information rule.
Yeah, no information.
I don't know. I feel like there's a huge line between. I think they're obviously trying to keep it fair for everybody, but I do think it's a little bit of extreme.
Well, first of all, it's almost impossible to enforce. If a guy really wants to get information and he calls a buddy of his that lives on that lake and say, hey, this is just between you and I. Tell me what's going on. Give me a waypoint. Tell me what I need to do.
Right.
You're probably not going to catch that guy. And then you got the guy over here that says, I'm not going to break a rule. So you're penalizing really the guy that's not going to break the rule, because how are you going to catch these guys that are doing it? It's been going on for years. So I don't like rules that you can't police fairly.
Right.
You can police them, but can you police them fairly for the whole field? And I don't think so. So I don't like that rule. I've never liked that rule. And so, truthfully, if what Scott is being accused of and what Scott posted, that how he handled it, it's a bad deal. It's unfair to Scott. The rule's too vague. The rule's very insignificant. If a guy tells me, you need to go check out the Paquimans River, you need to go check out the Chewan River, what, is that going to help me win the tournament? Is that giving me an unfair advantage because some guy that I don't know who has no tournament success record, so it's not like I'm talking to the guru of fishing, and he's telling me, go check out this, go check that out. You might want to try this lure, you might want to try that lure. Big deal. I
mean, I can see your side of it and I can see their side of it, as in they want you to use your own skills to navigate a lake that you're not really supposed to be briefed on. I feel like if that was the case and it was so okay, they would brief everybody on it. Like, this is the lake you're going to, these are the conditions. I think it's more so to test your talent as an angler, I guess people would argue. But I can definitely see where you're coming from as well.
Well, I can tell you this. People want to give you information. People want to tell you things. People want to share what they know, and they want to interact with you. And all my tournament life, people are telling me, hey, you need to go do that. I never listened to any of that. I was kind, and I was courteous, and I would sit there, oh, yeah, yeah. But I'm not going to do that. I could care less,
Yeah.
And so a lot of times after I win a tournament or something, somebody say, yeah, I put him on them fish. No, you didn't. You think you did. But I just didn't listen to all that. But I didn't want to be rude.
Right.
And if somebody, Ricky Clun made the statement one time, the worst thing anybody could ever do for you is tell you where to go and how to catch fish.
Right.
That's a bad deal. And 99% of the time, what you put together in the tournament and practice and what you learn gives you the ability to understand those fish and the transitional changes they're going to make during the event, because they're not going to stay the same. It's very, very rare that you find fish and establish a pattern in practice that it lasts for the entire tournament. You got to adapt. You got to change. You got to be able to move when the fish move, or when they suspend up in the water column, select the right lure. So somebody telling me, oh, you ought to try this bait, or you ought to try, look here, I got a lot of baits, and they're my tools, and I understand when and how to use them.
Right.
You're not going to influence me by saying throwing a
worm and
blue
this can,
and yellow wacky worm on a, that.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
I don't know. Again, I think it's a silly rule.
Yeah.
I don't think it protects the credibility of the anglers. And I think most everyone has been subjected, just as I did, the guys on the stage when we were at Angler's Choice.
Right.
That was a violation of the rule.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, either way you put it, that's still a rule. And if he knew that that was a rule and he knowingly broke it, I think that's where they're having the problem of, I mean, whether it's a stupid rule or not, they've stated it's the rules, and seeing as he's competed multiple times, he should know that.
Yeah.
And I feel like he definitely, if it is true, he definitely dug himself into a hole, and he's not making it better media side of it by just quitting altogether. I feel like that's almost an admission of guilt.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't agree with that necessarily. He's fed up. He's frustrated. He's had some miserable days in front of him. Life's too short for all this controversy.
True.
Life's too short to be scrutinized and discriminated against, if that's the case. And again, when I posted on Scott's Facebook right after he made the announcement, and I've got a lot of people shooting back at me, Hank, you don't know what you're talking about. Amen, Hank. So half the people are agreeing with what I had to say, and I just said it's a silly rule.
Yeah.
And it's a rule that should never have existed. It's a rule that should have been abandoned long ago. And I don't see any way that what he's being accused of is going to help him and give him an advantage over anyone else. And that's what the intent of the rule. There has to be some common sense involved in rules.
Right.
You know,
right.
The biggest controversy, and it's the only time that it ever happened as far as I know ever, your partner has to sign your scorecard. At the end, when you weigh in, just like a PGA golf event where your partner signs off that he watched and you abide by all the rules.
Right.
In bass, my whole career, I don't know if it's that way today. I hadn't fished them in a long time, but when I fished, you had to sign, your partner had to sign your scorecard.
Right.
So you went up together. And a couple of times it was embarrassing. I went up when my partner had a big bag of fish, and I didn't have a fish. I would rather not gone.
You hesitantly signed that
Oh,
scorecard.
it was awful because Ray Scott
man.
would skin me alive. Hank Parker, come up here. Look at it. He caught that big bag of fish in your boat, and you hadn't got nothing. What is wrong? I mean, he would skin you alive. So you hated to make that walk, but you had to do it because
Right.
the only way my partner's fish would count for me to sign that scorecard.
So
I'm
to hold him credible, in other words, you're holding
That's
each
right.
other credible. Right.
Yeah, it's a check and balance, you know. And I'm competing against him. He's watching me. I'm watching him. I'm gonna sign off that he did everything legal as far as everything that I saw.
Right.
So that's the rules. Okay, I'm at Kentucky Lake,
Right.
and I'm fishing with a guy, and I won't say his last name, but his first name was Elmer. I drew Elmer, and he said, I got a rock that I want to go fish. And I said, okay, Elmer, here's what I got going on. Now, I'm in fourth place.
Right.
It's the last day of the tournament. Elmer, there's 250 guys in this tournament. Elmer's probably somewhere bumping that 230, 240.
Okay.
He's caught one or two fish. So he's fished with Paul Elias, and he's fished with Paul Chamberlain.
Okay.
Those are two of the nicest people that I know. Two of the most fair people that I know, two gentlemen. So immediately when I got in the boat, he's telling me what a bad guy Paul Chamberlain is. Well, I know that is wrong. So I got the red flags up. I said, uh-oh, this guy has got a bad attitude, and it's going to be a tough day. So then he started talking about Paul Elias. Well, I know better than that. I know Paul too well, and I fish with too many people that's fished with Paul, but this guy has got a bad attitude.
Right. Or just
So,
seeing the negatives.
We
Yeah.
go out on Kentucky Lake. It's 4-foot waves. So he said,
Good.
I want to go to this cove over here. Now, I just caught my fifth fish, and it was a 7-fish limit. I got a good shot at winning this tournament.
Right.
So he says, I want to go fish that rock. I said, Elmer, we got a good pattern guy. He said, I don't care. It's my half of the day. I want to go fish that rock. I said, okay.
Okay,
we'll go.
know it all.
It's going to be rough.
Right.
It's going to take us a long time to get there, and it's probably not going to be smart. But if that's what you want to do, I'll
Right.
do it. He said, that's what I want to do. I said, okay.
Fair
and
enough.
I tried to talk him out of it.
You tried, but hey, it is his half of the day.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, at the end of the day,
So we go look for the rock.
right.
And I'm over there in 4-foot waves trying to find the rock. So he said, oh, no, it's not in this cove. It's one down. So now I got to run another 30 minutes and fight 4-foot waves to get to this rock.
Oh, I know you were fuming.
Now we can't find the
Oh,
rock.
I know you were mad.
Yeah.
I'd be mad
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I got a shot to win this tournament. So now I can't find the rock.
Right.
So we fish out there for about 15 minutes hunting this rock. And he said, I don't know where that rock is. He said, it's just too rough. Let's go back and do what you was doing.
So now you've wasted all this time.
2 hours.
Right.
2 hours
That you
shot
could've-
to pot. So now I fight 4-foot waves and go back to where I was fishing and pick up where I left off. I scratch out a limit, Elmer didn't catch fish. I asked Elmer to come up here and stand with me. He was a little bit overweight. He wasn't very aggressive. He couldn't cast very well, and I was casting underneath the button bushes, and it was really important to make a good presentation. He wasn't capable of doing that. So he didn't get out of the back seat. So when we come to the weigh-in, he refused to sign my scorecard.
How can you refuse?
I'm not signing it. I'm not going up there. I'm leaving.
What?
I'm leaving.
Sore
So
loser.
Shorty Evans, who was a tournament fisherman, he said, what's going on here? I said, he's not going to sign my scorecard. He said, the heck he's not. So he goes over there and they have a little confrontation. So Shorty pulls his car in front of Elmer's where Elmer can't leave. And so my fish are in the boat. So Shorty sends a friend to go tell Harold Sharp what's going on. So Harold Sharp is the tournament director. Without Elmer signing my scorecard, my fish don't count. Now, I'm in the battle for Angler of the Year. Also, I got a chance to win this tournament.
Right.
So Harold Sharp comes up, the director of the tournament director for bass, and Harold says, what's going on? So I tell him. So he goes over to Elmer and he said, Elmer, let me ask you something. Why are you not going to sign his scorecard? He said, 'Cause I don't
Sore
want to."
loser.
'Cause I
Sore
don't want to.
loser. Yeah.
Harold said, why don't you want to? He said, because I don't want to, and I'm not going to, and you can't make me. And Harold said, well, let me ask you something. Did he cheat? No, not that I know of.
It sounds like a 2-year-old
He's
kid.
a jerk. They call me a jerk. He said, he's
Yeah.
a jerk. He said, did he not offer you the half a day? He said, no, he didn't offer me the half a day. He said, so you didn't get your half? Oh, I got it, but he didn't offer it to me. I told him I wanted to go to the Rock.
Okay, you have to tell somebody to get, if it's your half of the day and you're not saying, hey, I want to go to this place over here, of course you're going to stay where you're at if y'all are catching fish. That's
Yeah,
common sense.
Absolutely.
But
there we go.
What he's doing,
there's my point. Common sense hat.
he's reaching, I think what he was doing is he was grabbing for straws to find some way to make himself the victim, to make you the bad guy because he sucked at catching fish that day.
So
anyhow.
now what we're going to do, I'm fixing to lose my daily catch.
You're probably about to lose your mind too.
I may not make the Bassmaster Classic.
Right.
I definitely will not win Angler of the Year because I got about 18 or 19 pounds, and that's when we went by pounds.
Right.
And I'm going to finish third in this tournament if my fish count. But they're not going to count because Elmer won't sign my scorecard. So Harold asked him, did he not take you to where you, well, he went, but it didn't work out. Well, what do you mean it didn't work out? Well,
You were wrong.
yeah, we couldn't find the rock.
Right.
So Harold's listening to this, and he says, come on, Hank, let's go get your fish. So I went and got my fish, brought them to the scales, and Harold Sharp signed my scorecard.
Right.
Well, all the other anglers got upset.
Because that's against the rules.
That wasn't the rules. But then Harold
Right.
said, okay, guys, okay. He called everybody together and said, what if this was you? Now, what if this was you? So are we going to let somebody that is angry, who refuses to sign a scorecard, ruin your career, knock you out of fishing the Classic, take away your Angler of the Year, take away a tournament win?
Because somebody was a sore loser. No, that is a very cruddy rule, I'd say, especially in those circumstances when, I mean, I understand their goal of trying to hold each other accountable, but I think it should just be a verbal, well, did he cheat? No. Or if you see it, you just report it versus being you have to sign this or it doesn't count because that discredits you, your fish. Okay, so same thing.
Harold,
if they didn't allow that.
Harold is the
would've been
final
terrible.
say-so.
Yeah.
He's the tournament director. He has the right. He can trump any written rule or law.
Okay.
And he did what you just said a while ago, put the common sense hat on.
Right.
So here's a guy that has not been cheated, who has had his opportunity, but because he's embarrassed to go back to his hometown with a 0, he is not going to sign my scorecard because he's angry, he's disappointed, he's frustrated. I tried every way in the world to accommodate him. I was as fair as I know how to be. Yes, I was intense. I was trying to win the tournament. Yes, I made a lot of casts. Yes, I fished my pattern. But who wouldn't? And how?
It's a competition. You're not going to roll over and do exactly what the other person is doing. At the end of the day, you're still partners, but you're also competing against each other.
And I tried to help him. I gave him one of my spinner baits. I told him where to throw it, how to throw it, showed him. I did everything I knew how to do, but it did not make him happy. So here's the point. Harold Sharp trumped the written rule with the common sense that you cannot let someone that has a bad attitude or angry destroy you and take away your day because he don't like you, because he was mad, because he was disappointed, because I didn't meet his expectations, the tournament didn't meet his expectations, whatever.
Right. And in the sense, the rumors that are going around now, I'm not 100% sure if they've been fully confirmed or not. Seeing as that it's just a rumor, we don't know where it's come from. But for the sake of the listeners who might not know what the no information rule is, can you explain like what that rule is?
From what it's a very vague rule. It's very broad. You can't get any information at all about the lake. Matt Herring, I thought it was Matt Airy. I've not talked to Matt Herring, but I called Matt Airy because I was confused. I thought it was Matt Airy who got disqualified. So I called Matt Airy, and he said, no, it wasn't me, it was Matt Herring. And his son told him about something, and he disregarded that. He didn't even go to where his son told him to go, but yet he got disqualified. I just think that's a stinking rule. I think that is a bad rule. And a rule is a rule, and I understand if you're going 36 and a 35, you might get a ticket. But there's got to be some common sense and leadway. 100%. Every speedometer is not right, but technically, if you want to do the letter of the law, if you're doing 36 and a 35, you're going to get it. You could get a ticket. So you're speeding.
This is the official rule stating for as of 2025 for the Bassmaster Elite Series. It says anglers cannot gather or use information about tournament waters from any source that isn't publicly available. So your restrictions are anglers cannot solicit, receive, or gather information about locating or catching fish on tournament waters from anyone other than Bassmaster Elite Series qualifiers. They cannot pre-fish on tournament waters with anyone who has knowledge of the tournament waters unless that knowledge was gained exclusively from that elite angler. Anglers are prohibited from using any social media, videos, or website coverage to gain competitive advantage.
Yeah, and so the part that it says you can't pre-fish, I get it. I'm all for it.
Right.
You can't solicit information. But if somebody throws something out, let's just say my son Ben, he's going to go fish Lake Wateree. And so he calls me and says, hey, Dad, how you doing? Hey, Ben, I'm doing good, buddy. Man, I was over at Wateree yesterday, and I killed him on a spinnerbait. I had an awesome. He's disqualified. He's DQ'd. Whoa, Dad, you shouldn't have done that. You should have never told me that. Now I'm disqualified. Golly, bum, man, I didn't try to give him information. He didn't solicit. He didn't ask me. He didn't say, where were you at? He didn't say, what color spinnerbait? How did you fish it? What were the...
But now, would that count, seeing as it's not like you asked?
He's DQ'd. He's out. If that, according to those rules, he's out. He didn't solicit that information. I voluntarily threw it at him before he had time to stop.
Right.
Silly. It's wrong, man. And so you got a guy's reputation on the line.
Yeah.
You got a second generation hero that has a lot of positive influence. He's got a daughter that is one of the top influencers in the country on social media.
Yeah, one of the top female anglers right now in the sport.
And now, because of all this, he's tainted. I just don't think it's right. You
know, I view the public like shark-infested waters. The second they smell something that might be a controversy or any sign of weakness, like everybody just likes to jump in and attack. You know, that's very true. And I feel like that's true of social media in general, which is a major turnoff for me from the entire platform itself. But I feel like people like to jump and attack at any given circumstance, whether they're educated on the topic or not. That comes back to what we talked about in previous podcasts when we were talking about our social media managing and, you know, how to build a social media presence and all that type of stuff that we were talking about, where people like to jump on the hate wagon.
Franco Hill used to say, some people, the only exercise they get is jumping to conclusions.
And amen to that.
Conclusions.
Amen to that. Right. But I'm saying people make themselves look so dumb, and it's so hard for me to keep my mouth shut.
Let me go back and say my mentor, Forrest Wood. Forrest would not find fault with Bass. He would not find fault with Scott. He would just say, it's an unfortunate situation. It's not really good for the sport. I hate it happened, but I wish both parties the best. And that's kind of the way Forrest would leave it, I believe. Now, that's my interpretation of Forrest. He's passed away, he's up in heaven, and I would never want to disrespect or say something that he wouldn't have really said. But I think from all that I know about Forrest, that's the way he would handle it. He wouldn't be throwing stones at Scott, and he wouldn't be criticizing Bass. He would just say, it's an unfortunate situation. I hope they can get it resolved, and everybody will come out okay.
Right.
That's where I'm at. I'm so sorry. I don't think it's fair to label Scott Martin as a violator or a cheater. I don't think that's fair based on what he's being accused of. Right,
and at the end of the day, it's an accusation. Nothing has been proven. Not that we're either for or against, but it's a rumor. You can't put all your faith into something that hasn't been confirmed. It's rumor mill. I watch Forensic Files all the time, and I watched a guy that was sent to prison primarily because he failed the polygraph test. Yeah. Even though it wasn't admissible in court, the police felt like once he failed it, he was their prime suspect, so they turned every rock they could and they convicted him. 5 years later, the DNA advancement came forth, and it was conclusive that the person that was accused of the crime that failed the polygraph test was innocent. Right. So he was released from custody. The real violator was arrested and convicted. Right. So they came back and they asked the guy that had served 5 years unjustly why he failed the polygraph test. He said, I have no idea. They've been proven that they're not 100% accurate. I think it was like a really low percentage that you would be surprised that they even offer polygraph tests anymore, because there's so many factors that can offset it. If you have a blood pressure problem that you don't know about, if you had low blood sugar that day, it can affect it. There's all these different factors that come into play physically, or if you're even slightly nervous because the police are questioning you whether you're guilty or not, and your heart spikes just a little bit, it's going to say that you lied and that you failed that. Yeah, and if I'm not saying this at all, Scott's worried about this, and he posted this on his social media, that I don't really trust the operator of this polygraph. So I solicited my own reliable, credible polygraph person who works with the sheriff's department in our area, and I had an independent polygraph test, and I asked all the questions that pertain to this situation, and I passed the polygraph. I don't trust them that they don't load it up where I'll fail. Right, which has happened before. Yeah, so I don't know. Polygraph test, and this is something not many people know, but Bobby Murray and Billy Murray, two of the heroes of the sport at Watts Bar. Billy came in, Bobby came in, and Bobby had a fish that he wanted to measure before he took it to the weigh-in, which is perfectly legal. And if he didn't think it was long enough, then he had the option to leave it in his live well and not. They changed that rule later, but at this particular time, that was something that happened on a regular basis. Right. If you got a fish that's marginal, you bring it in, and when you put it on the board, if you feel like he's a fingernail short, you don't weigh him in. You just leave him in your live well, and you come back, you release him later. Right. So Bobby comes in. He didn't have a belly board. He had just a straight board. Well, Bass at that time was using a belly board, which is a concave measuring board. So Billy had one, and it was wooden, and Billy kept it in his live well. So Bobby said, hey, you got a board? Billy says, yeah. He reaches in his live well, pulls out the wet belly board and throws it to Bobby. Well, there's a guy up on the hill watching it. Bobby drops it in his live well because he's tying up his boat. So when he gets through, he pulls that measuring board out of the live well and measures the fish. And so the guy up on the bank thinks Billy threw Bobby a fish. Yeah.
So he goes and tells the tournament directors.
Go figure.
So now Ray and Harold, they're ready to ban Bobby and Billy forever because Billy gave Bobby a fish. And so they're cheating.
Right.
And they have an eyewitness who's willing to swear to it in court. So Bobby and Billy both explained what happened, and Ray didn't want to hear it. Ray did not want to hear that because this person believed what he saw. And he saw water flying off of what he thought to be a fish. He saw Bobby catch it and drop it in his lap. I can see how that happened.
Right.
So Harold, the tournament director, said, Ray, we need to hear these boys out. We need to have them come down and take a polygraph test, and we need to hear these boys out. So a polygraph test cleared Bobby and Billy. Ray apologized. Bobby and Billy apologized. It was a bad judgment to have your belly board in the live well. Bobby and Billy both apologized, and everybody came out unscathed. But think about, had that gone the other way, think about if they did not pass that polygraph test.
It would have been unjust, yeah. 100% unjust.
I mean, the heroes, my hero of the whole sport of bass fishing would have been tainted forever.
Right. Well,
I hate that stuff, man. We got to get it right. And the rules have got to be written to be fair. And if there's a rule out there that is written that doesn't give a person an advantage over the rest of the field, it shouldn't be there. It should be a rule that's done away with.
Right.
And I've said that forever. I hate that rule.
Well,
and
so
now,
then why don't they have some kind of like reconvening, put the common sense hat on, like you say, and go through each rule and say, okay, is this fully necessary? Does this really affect the fairness of the tournament?
yeah.
You know, and I bet even still, it's like you can argue that all day long. And at the end of the day, it's a rumor. So it's not confirmed. It's not fully denied either. But, you know, what can you do? If it comes out that it's true, it's still a rule that was broken, whether
Well,
it was intentional or not.
Here's my point.
Just sad.
That rule is too broad.
Yeah.
So if a guy did actually tell Scott, you need to check out the Perquimans River, and you need to try these two lures, who cares? That ain't going to help Scott over the rest of the field.
Right.
People told me that kind of stuff all the time. People told everybody. It didn't make any difference.
So this circumstance just happened to have been caught or somebody heard it. I don't really know how the full rumor started or how any of that kind of came about. I don't know if you knew.
I could have called Clun, and I said, hey, Ricky, let me tell you what I think you need to do at Lake Wiley. It'd go in one ear and out the other. I could call Larry Nixon. I say, hey, Larry, let me tell you what I think you knew at Lake Wiley. And I'm an expert on Lake Wiley. I mean, I've won a lot of tournaments there. I grew up there. I fished it
there.
a lot.
Yeah.
They ain't going to listen to me.
Nope.
I mean, you know,
People
if
are
I
going to
said,
do what they're going to do.
I got a waypoint, and I guarantee you. Now, that's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
And Larry said, well, tell me more. Let me ask you this. Okay, now you're getting into violating the rule.
Right.
Now you're getting an advantage.
But see, that would be you would have to have full context of it. And again, who's monitoring that? Let's say it's a phone call, unless you're like, all right, give me your phone records before the tournament. Like that's a little much, you know?
Yeah, it's just so vague. It's so broad. It doesn't regulate anything. It
Right.
creates controversy. And I would say this, and I said this on Scott Martin's post, and I got a lot of feedback, negative.
Negative, go figure.
It's okay. It's okay. But I believe if you took almost everybody and you went back 10 years, almost everybody would be in violation of that rule because somebody said something. I mean, technically, when I said that in front of Marty Stone and Brian Thrift and Mount Airy and David Dudley, technically, I gave them information.
Right. Again, but it's like to what extreme? Like if it was one thing, I would completely agree with some level of scrutiny if it was like, hey, man, I know exactly how you're going to win this tournament. You're going to go here, here, and here. And given like some sort of valid information that nobody else would have had, or that's not even available online. Because it even said that in the thing, if it's with a Bass Elite Series Pro, you can talk about it, but when it's an outside source or somebody on the water or whatever, you can't take in that type of information.
From what I understand, this guy that gave this information to Scott, who Scott didn't know, had no credibility to Scott at all on the water, he called and told Bass about the conversation. That, to me, again...
That's sabotage.
Yeah.
How are you... No. How are you going to call somebody, tell them the information, and then snitch?
Yeah, I don't like it. The whole
That's
thing,
weird.
The whole thing is bad. It's bad for Bass. It's bad for Scott. It's bad for Scott's family. It's bad for Hillary. It's just
sad.
a bad deal.
Right.
And it's not good for our sport. So I hate it.
At the end of the day, give people a little bit of grace. Be nice. There's no reason to crucify somebody for even if you did and it was a mistake. There's still no reason to be nasty about it. At the end of the day, that's the truth. No matter what happened, don't be a nasty person.
I think the way that Harold Sharp handled the deal with me and Elmer on Kentucky Lake, I think he put the common sense hat on. He saw where this could be a chaos situation if it occurred on a regular basis, and it could get something started. Let's nip this out in the bud, as Barney Fife would say. And I think Harold put the common sense hat on. I think if Scott just got disqualified because a guy said something about Lake Okeechobee a couple of weeks or a month or so ago, I think if I'm a tournament director and somebody calls me and says, hey, I had a conversation with Scott Martin and I told him he needed to check out these 2 rivers and these 2 baits to check, I would ask that guy in detail, was he soliciting information about the water?
Or were you telling him?
Yeah, and are you willing to come and take a polygraph test to let me make sure that you're credible before I ever contacted Scott?
That's
I wouldn't
full
even
investigation.
bother with it.
Right. Let's take it to court, people.
Yeah.
we got to show the receipts. We got to show the evidence. People got to go through it and make a decision. Because I agree with you. I have agreed with you this entire time. Don't get me wrong. But I agree with you, especially in that sense. There's no reason to besmirch someone's name and somebody's family and cause that much damage over something that could be considered trivial or wasn't entirely his fault. Well, or could just be false altogether. We don't know.
I think they need to get rid of the rule, number one, because it puts Bass in a situation, too. If a guy does call up and say he violated that rule, they've got to look into it. I get it. But at the same time, I think they look into it in private. I don't think they air it out. I think they evaluate it behind the scenes, and then they dismiss it.
Oh, but of course they are, Pupple, because guess what? That's drama, that's media, that's attention that they're able to get out of there, and people love it. Like I said, the media is like shark-infested waters. The one little drop of blood, which would be like one little slip-up or one little incident that's slightly controversial, they're going to blow up. And that is media, and it has always been that way since the beginning of time.
Well, I think we all need to take a deep breath.
Yep.
We
Take a
all
chill
need
pill.
to be fair to one another, and I like the word grace.
Yep.
I thank God for grace.
Amen.
And I think we need to show a little grace, and I think we need to show a little compassion. I think we need to show some understanding. At the same time, rules need to be upheld in order to keep the playing field level.
Right.
But when you do have a rule that has nothing to do with a level playing field, I think that rule needs to be disbanded, thrown, put in the garbage can, and just write rules that pertain to keeping the playing field level and fair for everyone. That's important. So it's too much regulations, too many rules, too many silly rules that can't be enforced, in my opinion, that need to be taken away. So that's my take on it, and I understand it puts Bass in a predicament that they've got to work to enforce the rules.
Yeah.
So,
I was talking to Matt the other day, it's my husband, and he said that.
So y'all talk?
He was
husband
saying.
and wife talk. That's pretty cool.
He was saying that he has never seen a group of people, bass fishermen specifically, I'm talking to y'all, act more like a bunch of little high school girls involved with drama than any other group.
Stop it.
It's so bad. But anyways, I completely agree with you. Show some grace And I think that wraps up today's podcast. I think we've said everything needs to be said.
It is. Let's leave it on a positive note. Let's wish Bass all the luck in the world. Let's wish Bass to continue to prosper.
Right.
Let's wish Scott Martin. He comes out of this thing unscathed. His career continues to prosper, and people don't look at him as if he is a violator. Let's all come out of this thing with an understanding that it was a bad rule, and it had to be enforced in the eyes of Bass. And unfortunately, Scott was on the wrong end of the particular ruling.
Right.
And let's just wish both parties the very best.
That's very well said. Very well said. Well, with that being said, I guess I'll see you guys next week.
We want to thank Mossy Oak and Liqua Molly for being a part of our podcast, helping us out. And we want to thank you for listening. You know, our podcast does not have rules and regulations and boundaries. We ramble a lot.
Yeah.
And whatever occurs at the moment before we start this podcast, the topic that's hot, whether it's where the fish are or what lure we need to use or a new fishing line or a new rod or a new method or a new technique or something that's controversial, if it's at the top of the list, we'll talk about it. Now, I waited a full week, a little more than a week, before I even brought this up about Scott. You got
to marinate over that, because that can be a very sore topic or touchy, especially when you're putting out on a platform. But 90% of this
all over the internet,
off the cuff. Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's all over the internet. I've read every comment, not every comment. I've read hundreds of comments. I've read the comments on what I had to say, and some people agree and some people disagree, and that's okay. But it is what it is. But our podcast is very informal, and we talk about the topics at hand, and I give you my perspective on it. So it's not something that is an absolute factual. It is my read on what's taking place. It's my read on the condition of the sport. It's my read on fishing in general. So I never intended to have a podcast that we were going to be politically correct in every era of our life and make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted.
No.
And my whole objective in starting this podcast is let's be positive. Let's talk about the wonderful people that built the foundation in which this sport is built on, and talk about the good times and the good days. And it's just because of all the social media, there's something happening on a regular basis that's somewhat negative.
Because people are negative. I found the trend. It really is the people. They're hungry for it. They're like, "Ooh, give me that juicy little gossip." That's literally what they're like, and it's insane. It is insane. I'm like, I have never seen a group of people so nasty than the people online.
Well, maybe
so nasty.
Need to start the Enquirer, the tabloid news of today.
Catch me just turning off the comments altogether. No comments left.
No comments.
No comments.
So anyway, we appreciate you so much for listening, and I hope that along the way as we ramble, we'll say something that has interest to you and that you will continue to watch our podcast.
Please do.
I need help, folks. So thank you so much, and may I say God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.